Rolling blunts, my mind is getting open. My pen is like Cheech and Chong, I'm still smoking. So when you see me in your city high as hell and I'm feeling a little litty, I just don't give a fuck. Smoking the sour in the drop with the homie Annie.
What's up, everyone? Midweek Wednesday, TDR's Trade to Black podcast presented by FlowHub. I am your host, Shad Dales. Kyle Sherman, CEO of FlowHub, is going to be on in just a moment, as well as the CEO of Cheech and Chong, Jonathan Black. First time to the podcast. They announced a big partnership yesterday. We'll dive into the details of what that means and why you should care as far as the overall industry. Plus, AV, now you're going to talk about Ohio as SB 56 will take effect next month on March 20th. And now Governor DeWine is telling cannabis advocates to stop whining. Why? Because there's this whole ordeal around hemp intoxicating products. So as much as at first you look at it and say cannabis advocates and stop whining, you might think, what is he saying? But he may have a point, because at the end of the day, if we want a nice regulated market, we have to get rid of intoxicating hemp products. So with that, let's welcome in AV on a Wednesday. What's going on? Interesting day. Shad, I sold off my lithium today, 150,000 profit today. Well, good for you, my man.
It's a good random fact to start off the show.
I know, right?
No, I'd be lying if I didn't say that my confidence was probably at an all-time low for Bondi actually getting something done. It was
That's the way you're feeling now.
It was a complete circus that she showed today, right in front of the House Judiciary Committee. She had absolutely no restraint, no respect. I don't think she had any idea what was going on, to be completely honest. And at this point, I hope the DEA is writing the final rule, because I don't have any confidence in her getting anything done. It was horrific.
Bondi was horrific today, writes Nina. It was that.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance.
It was 6 hours of a circus.
It was, I've seen her in the past, not good, but again, it was kind of the same thing. It was that bad, huh?
She was deflecting questions on Epstein, shouting that the Dow's at 50,000. That's talking points from Trump on a friggin' cue card. They had all the Epstein victims stand up and raise their hands if they had not been addressed by the Department of Justice yet. And people that were actually named in the files, none of them had been addressed by the DOJ. So if she's not working on Epstein, if she's not working on something else, I don't know what she's working on. Pray to God it's cannabis, because if you want to go with the deadlines, which the FDA didn't hit yesterday on the synthetic front, we need Schedule 3 and we need to get this pilot program done with what Trump had alluded to on the 18th of December with the executive order getting signed. But nothing that Attorney General elicited today gives me any confidence that she is qualified or getting anything done in her current role.
So if she signs off on this, you're thinking that there could be a lot of something has been missed, and this could open up the door for lawsuit. Well, of course,
not at all. I'm not saying that in the least bit.
So when you sit here and say you don't have confidence, you just don't think she's going to get the signature done, is what you're thinking.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying she's going to put together a flawed document that's going to get just torn apart by legal. I think that's a little bit too granular. I just don't know what she just seems completely incompetent.
Need to get Shane Pennington or Eric Berlin on after this, but that's telling.
They're not going to give insight into circus of Pam Bondi.
Or Bronstein. It's worth a try, but I hear your point, but wow, that's not good. Bondi is a joke, pretty negative as far as some of the stuff. Today's podcast presented by FlowHub. If you're a dispensary operator looking to scale, your tech stack matters. FlowHub powers some of the most recognizable brands in cannabis, including Cheech and Chong. That's one of the most trusted, earned brands in the industry at the highest level. So if you're looking at this, you're from compliance to inventory to seamless retail execution, FlowHub is built to help you grow without the chaos. If you want to learn more, book a demo right now at flowhub.com. All right, let's begin with news out of Ohio. As I said off the top, where Governor Mike DeWine recently told cannabis advocates to stop whining about a new GOP-backed restrictions. At first glance, you might think, what is he saying? Why is he saying this? Might mean a little harsh, but the more you look into this, I got to help but think that, does he have a point? Because there are some cannabis advocates that want to get some signatures signed where SB 56 is supposed to go into effect next month. And one of those provisions, sorry, go ahead.
But SB 56 bans hemp.
Right. What I'm saying is
so is he defining cannabis advocates and hemp advocates under the same circus tent? Because I would have to say that cannabis advocates and hemp advocates have different initiatives and are aligned differently.
Well, I was reading some of the stories of marijuana moment, but
I think you got to correct the way it was reported. Absolutely.
But you're right.
I think Governor DeWine needs to make that differentiation, which is he talking to the hemp people? Is he talking to the cannabis people? because I know the TDR Plus members got to see the talk that I had with Hirsch Jane this afternoon, mostly diving deep into the Ohio market. And Governor DeWine owes the cannabis industry people and the cannabis advocacy people in the state of Ohio a great deal of progress. It's been 2.5 years since 2 passed, and they still don't sell eighths in the state of Ohio. They still, you can't find dispensaries because they don't have out-of-home marketing in the state of Ohio. Hirsch had said he went to a GTI that was right by the Cleveland Indians Stadium, and you couldn't even find it because there was no loud signage. The state of Ohio needs to get its affairs in order as it relates to the cannabis industry.
What do you mean that there's no signage outside? Because when I cruised around Ohio, dispensary and Leaf, there was signage there, but no signage whatsoever.
Hirsch said it was impossible to find. The Rise dispensary in Cleveland that was apparently 2 blocks away from the Cleveland Indian Stadium. So this bill helps the cannabis industry. This bill cleans up the hemp problem in the state of Ohio. I think this bill is warranted. I think you're going to see more states ban hemp before there is a total ban in November. But for him to tell them to stop whining, maybe he needs to listen to some of his constituents' voices in his state.
Well, the constituents were basically complaining about the hemp ban. And I think that's, in some ways, I think I agree with them, because there has to be a ban to clean this up. But yeah, we'll look back when, like, the first day that went live in Ohio, what's that, going back 1.5 years now?
2.5.
Yeah, is it 2.5 years?
Or 2.5 years since 2 passed. Probably you were driving around the state.
August 24, August 20, maybe it was August 23. I thought it was August 24, but
it wasn't August 23, because that was like when we just started the podcast.
Yeah, right. Sales in Ohio for recreational use last year was 836 million. So I do remember going to just outside of Sandusky and then heading over to Canton for Zenleaf, and then furthering up with, who am I drawing a blank?
Didn't you go to Sunnyside?
I think I went to Acreage. What was their?
Yes, you went to Acreage.
But there were state regulators at every single city location for every single event that was going on. So it's tightly watched, and it seems like it's still that case in Ohio right now. But
they're not making it easy.
No,
they're not making it easy at all on the operators. It's a shame, because Ohio could be a very good market. It's got twice the population of Missouri, yet it's underpacing Missouri in leaps and bounds.
So in addition to the group, there's also 3% of individual counties gubernatorial turnout in 44 of Ohio's 88 counties. So there's some echelons that need to be met here. And some of the notable changes, including of like this deadline is on March the 19th, if I'm correct, include lower THC, which you and I have discussed, Anthony, of adult use extracts from 90 to 70, cap at THC levels of adult use lowered to 35%. So yes, there is a lot of moving parts since this went live, and it's become complicated for a lot of operators on what's real, what's not. Plus, you have this lawsuit taking place in Ohio. So it was great to see this market come online, but the rollout has been anything but perfect.
No, it's been bumpy. There's a lot of just back and forth with how they want to actually put out the final regulations for 2 in the state of Ohio, and the operators right now are just completely they're not in limbo, because it's an $800 million market. There's not that many licenses in the state of Ohio, but now they're getting sued by the AG. They're getting inaction from the government. They're getting a handout from the governor, which I would say, which cleaning up the hemp industry does help the licensed market. But at the same time, they're not getting any favors across the board.
None whatsoever. All right, that wraps up our first little segue here of Traded Black podcast presented by FlowHub. We're now just going to, before we start segment number 2, a quick word from our friends over at Free Nicotine Pouches. Let's go, Arns. Hey, if you follow markets, trade volatile sectors like cannabis, or run a business day to day, you already know how important focus is. Headlines move fast, decisions matter, and distractions, hey, they're everywhere. And for me, if I don't stay focused, some days my days can end up like this. Oh man, I got a lot on my plate. Oh my God, I get through those emails, and I gotta get that package out. Where did I leave my sunglasses? But when I pop in a free nicotine pouch, my day starts to become more focused, and it ends up like this. Hey, let's do it. Let's lock in that 67% gain. Great trade. Because listen, I don't smoke, I don't vape, I don't want anything like that in my lungs. And that's why I use Free Pouch. Free gives you control with clean nicotine delivery, ranging from 3 milligrams up to 15, depending how intense your day is. Just discreet, clean focus when you need to lock in. Check them out at freepouch.com. And right now, you can save with promo code TDR20 at checkout and save 20% on your next purchase. freepouch.com. All right, let's welcome it back here in the second segment, Trade to Black on a Wednesday, presented by FlowHub. as we're going to bring in both Kyle Sherman and Jonathan Black. But before we do that, as we said yesterday, the two companies announced a new licensing partnership. They partnered network for independent dispensaries supported by FlowHub's retail technology. They're partnering with Cheech and Chong. So with that, let's first welcome in their CEO of FlowHub, Kyle Sherman, along with the CEO of Cheech and Chong Incorporated, Jonathan Black. Good to see you, gentlemen. Kyle, good to see you. How are things, my friend?
It's great to see you, gentlemen. I'm glad we're back on air together.
I know, right? Jonathan, good to see you for the first time on the podcast. Where are you logging in from? I hear California.
That is correct. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Where in California you from?
Northern California, right outside the Bay Area.
Very nice. All sane after the Super Bowl, I assume, after last week?
It's calmed down. It was in Santa Clara and created a definite uptick of traffic and people and strange events, but it's calmed down drastically so right after it ended.
Well, let's begin with the news. Cheech and Chong have historically focused on brand-driven experiences. This announcement emphasizes licensing independent dispensaries rather than corporate-owned locations. So I'll start with you, Jonathan. What drove this decision to pivot towards a licensing strategy at this stage, and what you're going to be doing, obviously, with Kyle and FlowHub?
Well, I think everybody sees the brand and fewer people see the infrastructure behind it. So being able to bring in an infrastructure to the independent dispensaries along with branding is the missing components. And FlowHub and Kyle really give us that ability to do that with the POS and being able to integrate through their systematic approach. We're not being blocked off. We can have the loyalty program. We've also integrated with headset so we can bring data components in here. So being able to bring stuff that a lot of the MSOs are using drastically to their advantage to allow these independents and these license holders to compete with a brand and a technology infrastructure behind it is highly important for the market, right? And for the optionality of the consumers that are looking to support their local dispensaries and their shops.
Right. So when you look at this, Kyle, the platform is now integrated into the Cheech and Chong partner network. So it gives independent dispensaries enterprise level point of service. So as what Jonathan just outlined. So from your perspective, what made this collaboration unique? How does it, I guess, the tech support from a partner aspect, dive into that partner network mode? But all in all, why did this make sense on your end as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, number one, I can't believe we're working with Cheech and Chong. I got to tell you, this is a brand that I watched the movies in my early 20s, and I was also stoned, and I thought they were just hysterical, and I thought, that these guys are hilarious, right? And today, to think that we've got this partnership, Jonathan, I think it's like so cool. So anyway, I just want to start with that because I like Cheech and Chong is just such an amazing, iconic brand. Yeah. I think I don't know if there's one person on this planet that doesn't know what Cheech and Chong is. It doesn't matter your age. You've heard of these guys. So whatever, we're really excited about this. And I think what's really fascinating about this particular approach that Cheech and Chong is taking, it's really interesting because you guys really are thinking about how do we help boost independent shops? And I think back to my early days in the space and the world that I wanted to see. And while we support obviously big MSOs and bigger companies, we really want to democratize the industry so that everyone can compete fairly on the same playing field. We want to make sure consumers, we want to make sure consumers have choice. And I think what Cheech and Chong is doing with this iconic brand is incredible because they're enabling these independent shops who maybe don't have a brand in their own right or maybe don't have the ability to build a brand in their community. They're going to be able to do that really easily with this really recognizable, iconic brand.
So how are you helping the independents, let's say, turbocharge their businesses? They're licensing the brand to them. Are you taking up shelf space within retail? Or are you re-merchandising the dispensaries as well as bringing in the tech stack to streamline operations? What's the actual strategy when you identify a target and then go in there?
Absolutely, Anthony. We're bringing in products. What you're seeing in Anthony is different markets work different ways. You're seeing a lot of trading between big MSOs on shelf space for products in different scenarios. You're seeing distributors that are controlling a series of brands in some states and controlling payment and where things are placed on shelf space. So you have this never-ending friction in the industry between big and small. And so to level set that on kind of an anti-MSO model is to bring in the infrastructure, also bring in the products, the branding, and the ability to work with those. Because we work with a lot of big MSOs too, right? We work with companies on that side of the equation. So being able to have those conversations, bridge those gaps is hugely important, not only from a product standpoint, a marketing standpoint, but also a technology stack standpoint, which is amazing that FlowHub gives us. We met with a lot of different companies and had a lot of different conversations, and the way that FlowHub's built to integrate into these systems, to bring loyalty into the loyalty programs into these systems,
Right.
to be able to run through our website so that people can actually have an e-commerce presence and in the things that the capabilities that are there that are continuing to be built out and grow, besides the amazing products they already have, is just it's a whole silo of abilities that these smaller shops wouldn't have. And if they had them, it'd almost be punitively priced to them, right? If they're not dealing with this. So we come in and make those deals, and that's how we do it, not only on the product side, but on the technology side. On the product side, we're selling to so many other people that we're able to bring down our packaging because we're getting packaging so cheap because we're ordering so much packaging across our industry. And then products, being able to sell at a volume, obviously trapped inside those state lines for now, but being able to sell at a volume helps bring in those prices on those retail shelves that support the brand, but also then allow us to negotiate independent brands coming into the dispensaries, which we want, besides big brands, right? We want all brands, but being able to negotiate at a different position is hugely helpful for these stores.
So you're not only working with these businesses at the ground level of retail, you're also bringing in your distribution relationships, I'm assuming manufacturing relationships to a certain degree, and then creating economies of scale to get them cheaper product, expand margins, create a healthier business, and be able to, I'm assuming, scale and grow their businesses under your umbrella.
100%, Anthony. And I think there's a lot of moving parts on that, and it depends on the state and how the state works and the trade level between shops, manufacturing, and grows. So filling in those components is hugely important for a store because the store is ultimately interfacing with the customer, right? And so being able to interface appropriately and properly with that customer is huge, right? Being able to give the dispensaries the power to do that from a tech stack to a product stack is going to allow them to grow and continue to exist, because it's tough with the taxation, the rules, the regulations, the compliance, all these mechanisms that they're battling with on a daily basis. And you have sometimes in some of these shops, you have one guy that's doing 12 different jobs. So being able to free that person up with technology and with retail solutions on products is huge.
Yep. Kyle, drum this down to our audience then. Why does this deal make sense and how does it benefit them? Because like you said, we have bigger competition. You have a licensing agreement. You're the tech platform. But more importantly, for a lot of the end users here, which are the consumers, why does this benefit them on an announcement like this?
At the end of the day, Shad, consumers want choice, right? They want to be able to go into their town. They want to be able to go drive into the city, wherever their dispensaries are, and have choice, right? I think that's what makes this industry so fun, is that you go to these different shops, you get a different experience. And so for the folks that are watching and who are going out shopping and buying these cannabis and consuming these cannabis products, you want to make sure that they're having an easy time in the store. And I think a lot of times people underestimate the amount of friction that actually is happening behind the scenes in stores. And technology can actually automate a lot of this stuff, right? It turns out that we can actually they're robots essentially doing things for you. And so if you can take that cognitive load off of the staff that's in that store that's serving the consumer, you're going to get better recommendations. You're going to get a better experience. You're going to probably become loyal and come back to the store, right? And that's our whole goal. At FlowHub, we really have this ethos, and maybe we've talked about it here, but we really appreciate an open API. And what that really means is an open, connected world where any store can add whatever software they want on top of our system. Even if we have a service that might compete with that particular vendor or whatever, we want to make sure that we have an ecosystem that supports third-party vendors to be able to integrate, and that allows you to continue to differentiate that consumer experience. And so that's a big reason why we're seeing so many folks come over to the platform, Shad, is because it's just, the reality is there are people in this space that are trying to close it up. They want you in an ecosystem. They want a singular type of service. And we believe that cannabis is unique. It's full of amazing products. There's so much diversity. There's so many different retail types. We want to make sure we can support all of them, and we can continue to drive a unique industry. And I think, and this is going to keep a lot of businesses open. What Cheech and Chong's doing here is really supporting small business, and it's going to allow them to keep their doors open despite having all this friction and other things they suffer with every day. Jonathan's very serious about the fact that you have a single person in some of these stores doing 12 jobs, and it's kind of insane, right? How could you possibly be good at all those things? So it really is important to have the right infrastructure, your procedures or software. All the things need to make sense. And so I love what these guys are doing at Cheech and Chong right now. I think it's super admirable, and it's time someone really stepped up to make a play like this.
John, are there certain jurisdictions that you're focused on in terms of, I guess, identifying targets?
Absolutely. Look, we're open to anybody that calls in and wants to talk, and we can try to figure it out. But we started off in more rural jurisdictions where these components were tougher, right? You had, to piggyback off Kyle's point, is you had the CMO was also the person who was ordering products. He was a buyer, and then they were also dealing with the inventory levels and all this stuff. So that was where we started, was in some of these more rural areas. We've grown pretty quickly, for example, in Montana, almost overnight. And so being able to use those components, and now we're going back to the major cities on Chicago, New York, and some other places to continue to build out. But we did focus a little bit more on, hey, let's put this really to the test, right? Where we know the difference between what this brand is doing, what this tech stack can do, what these products can do, versus then let's put it in some place what's already doing $3, $4, $5 million a month in sales.
Yep.
We're going after that too, but we want to definitely grind it out with the people that are $100,000 to start and see how far we could drive that number with these components.
Oh, so it's not 3 to 5. You're doing something as small as even $100,000 is what you're suggesting.
We have some small stores. We got a small store in Milo, Maine, right? There's not a lot of population there. And then in the winter, it gets pretty cold for people to go out. So that's why FlowHub and e-commerce is going to be so important on that side, so they can just pop out. But we wanted to definitely put this to the test. We know what this brand can do. We've seen what it can do from a social media side, from being able to rally people around the brand, the product, and knowledge of cannabis. Also desensitizing the way it's been treated through the guy's comedy and everything else is hugely important. So we wanted to bring that full circle, what we're doing here with this infrastructure and these partners.
And for those that don't know, we talk about, I just want to make one thing clear to our audience, because I'm seeing a lot of comments. We talk about hemp and we talk about cannabis on this show. For those that are watching, this is pure play, state-run cannabis that we're talking about from a dispensary standpoint, correct?
Yeah, this is 100% pure play cannabis is what we're talking about. We do have hemp products on the drink side, and we want to, our mission really has been, Tommy and Cheech first brought us in here, the goal was, hey, how do we normalize this? How do we show that these cannabis products don't mean you're going to be locked on your couch or robbing a bank, right? You're going to be super productive in life, and it's helpful and it's artistic and it has all these components with it. And so trying to get products in everybody's hands with all these different state rules and regulations and everything else, we've had to expand into territories like Texas. We're not going to be able to sell a cannabis product productively there as of yet. It will happen, but it's not there. So we sell hemp products there, right? So you've got to look at what you're faced with and how to utilize the brand and products, technology stacks, and partnerships to really get products into everybody's hands so they can become familiar with this and enjoy it. In meeting the consumer at their levels, right? This is one of the big things FlowHub does for us, is which we didn't have, right? You have all these retail stores that have all these programs, this e-commerce, this loyalty, and then you have these dispensaries that have none of that, right? So being able to transition that is hugely important. When it goes back to the hemp and the drinks, being able to meet a consumer in an actual Total Wine and More, so they can try something and find their way into a dispensary. The start of enlarging an audience drastically for us, right? And again, we're going to follow whatever regulation, because we always have a target on our back, being Cheech and Chong. So whatever the law is, we're going to play by it.
And I'm assuming too, having a congruent tech stack allows more visibility for you, let's say at the holdco level, to see everything that's going on within all of your partner dispensaries.
It does. And some of the numbers that one would not suspect are really huge to understand, right? Because it wouldn't be what someone would say, hey, this is how that's going to work out in a market. We're willing to try everything once, in some cases even twice, right? To figure stuff out.
What do you think, look at Cookies and what they did and how they had their license agreement, their name across many dispensaries across the U.S. Is there anything to learn from that? Question for either one of you. And I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, but it's a question I think probably would cross someone's mind when they think about that.
I think cookies. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'll give it a
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
I
please.
think cookies did a lot of positive things and a lot of negative things at the same time, right? I think cookies was able to bring out a fun corporation structured experience to a mass audience, which was huge. They also pushed in certain areas so hard that it affected brands like us, and even packaging would get slapped on the hand where we'd been running it for like a year and there was no problems. So you saw some of that, but I think for us, I think Steve Jobs had it right when he said, you don't hire a smart person and tell them what to do. It's ass backwards. We're more into partnering with people and understanding their local markets from their sight line than we are in partnering with people and telling them this is how it's done and this is how we do it in X amount of states and internationally. So you're going to do it this way. We have genetics, but we also can use whatever their genetics are, right? With our producers. So, we try to partner more than dictate. And maybe that may not be a fair assessment of cookies, but that's what I've heard coming back to me in people that have done business with them. But I think they've done a lot of positive things for cannabis overall. But there has obviously been some sidebacks about pushing the envelope for them.
I got it. You look at this as far as scaling up, it's a big opportunity for you, Kyle. And most importantly, you see all these politicians and all this news coming out recently about cannabis getting into the hands of youth and how I just shake my head. We've had this conversation a few times the past 48 hours. But again, with a proper regulated market, with obviously the infrastructure that you provide, these are questions that can be easily answered if any politician came across this way. But it becomes very political. You do have these prohibitionist groups, but again, the data doesn't lie, and you can obviously demonstrate that, correct?
Exactly. It's just over and over again for now. This is year 11, which I honestly can't believe. We've been doing this for 11 years. We're protecting minors from getting access to legal regulated cannabis dispensaries. And we're making sure that the cannabis dispensaries themselves are staying compliant, right? Whatever state regulatory guidelines exist. We integrate with all the state regulatory bodies. I think, I got to tell you, I think so. And this is why we're doing the Great American Dispensary Tour. We're trying to show all these consumers, I got to say, these guys have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And the reality is this is so complex. It's so much more complex than people realize. And for years, I had investors and people tell me, this is a terrible idea trying to do this tech company to help these dispensaries because Shopify is going to come in at some point. And by the way, Shopify pulled out of Canada. That's a much simpler framework than the United States. Right. So you look this is a very unique market. And I don't think consumers really have any idea what's happening behind the scenes for these retailers, the overhead, the amount of regulatory complexity, the reports they're sending to the states, sometimes in real time.
Well, how can they? It's 50 states operating as 50 different countries, if you think about it.
It truly is. I got to say, Jonathan, by the way, I just got to shout out your marketing. I saw this video you guys posted with our team, and it was Cheech and Chong looking at what is this? It needs tiny trees. And if you haven't seen that, you got to go search for this Cheech and Chong Dispensaria video because it is hilarious. I was dying watching that. So are we going to see more Cheech and Chong in the marketing, by the way? Are they going to be very involved in the marketing of this?
Yeah, they're super involved. We built a studio for them down by where they live in LA and El Segundo. They are really hard working at this. I think the thing that got to them was like, hey, look, Bob Marley and all these other celebrities got this paycheck to license early on, and they didn't. And they've always treated this differently. No, they were not given that kind of offer. And so they've always treated this differently. They felt that they were the godfathers. Yeah.
In a way, though, what a blessing, right? Because if you look at a lot of the celebrity brands that have come out, and a lot of people have asked me over the years, reporters and stuff, well, why aren't we seeing more celebrity brands? What's going on there? And they don't work because the celebrities are disengaged. They're not involved. You look at like why Casamigos worked in alcohol. It's because George Clooney was all over it. And he was pushing this. He was out promoting it. His face was everywhere. And so it's pretty cool to hear that they're going to be so involved. I think that's going to really help the brand, right? We just don't see that deep of celebrity involvement in the industry, really. They open up a store or whatever, slap their name on some products and then disappear and hope for a paycheck. And it just doesn't work. Consumers resonate with it. They know better.
I think if you look, I think a lot of celebrity brands took the customer approach. You sell a product once, you have a customer, right? If you sell a product, they come back and buy it and they tell someone about it, you have a brand. And so that's always been our position in how does this filter outwards? We didn't want to be a celebrity brand. We wanted to be Coca-Cola of cannabis, right? That's always been our goal, and that's always been what we're pushing to. And these guys, they're endless work ethics, from doing meet and greets to sitting there and signing posters for 3 hours while I'm sitting there having a snack and they're signing away. It's incredible.
My producer came across our producer the other day. I didn't realize Tommy is 87 years old. And
What?
I was shocked to hear that.
I had no idea. That's crazy.
What a life. But you're saying that he's not slowing down anytime. He's putting in a lot of the time, the effort. How old's Cheech?
Cheech's 8 years younger.
So he's 70 now. Oh, wow.
I think if you stop swimming, you drown. And I think they've taken that approach to it. And it's amazing when I do look at Willie and Cheech and Chong and Snoop Dogg, the condition these guys are in that have just predominantly used cannabis their whole life, right? It's way different than some of the guys who were bigger drinkers.
Tommy comes on to all our grower podcasts. I love Tommy, writes Dirty the Grower. Nice. We got to get Tommy on. Yeah. Better yet, we need to go have a podcast in person with Tommy. But I thought that was amazing. I still cannot believe when I heard that noise, but I'm trying to think of Up in Smoke. What was that? Was that late 70s?
78, I believe. These guys, like the stories they have from John Belushi, not Jim, but John, and just going back to, they were supposed to do, what was that movie with Bill Murray, and not in the Army now, but God, jeez.
And John Belushi was in it?
They were supposed to, Stripes. The stories these guys have, what their interaction through Hollywood for 50 plus years, I think it's been 55 years, is pretty incredible. It's amazing when you hear them just talk about comics and everything else.
John Belushi had one of the greatest Saturday Night Live commercials ever. He was running around a track with his shirt off and his big old gut hanging out. How do you keep in such great shape? He's like, simple, 30 donuts and a cigarette for breakfast every single morning. He was a legend. You must have some great stories, I can imagine, working with these guys, do you not?
Oh man, everything. Even to the Wolf of Wall Street story behind that, and Jordan and Tommy doing time together.
I didn't know this. We'll roll this back. What happened?
I guess
it's on air.
I'll give it a go. Hopefully Jordan doesn't take offense. But I guess Jordan wanted to do a story about what he had been through and his experience. And at the same time, he's telling Tommy all these funny stories, and he presents him this. And obviously Tommy's a very talented screenwriter. Tommy looks at it and is like, what's this garbage? Like, you should write all the funny stories you've been telling me. And so I guess Jordan went back to the drawing board and reconstructed what he had in Wolf of Wall Street. So you see these guys, you look at Pumping Iron with Arnold, that's a joint Tommy rolled, right? So these guys go back so long. Cheech has won Celebrity Jeopardy. Ask the guy any question, he knows it. He's a walking manifestation of dictionary and encyclopedia at the same time. Yeah. And it's mind-numbing because of the intelligence of these guys.
There's a term you don't use anymore. You're walking encyclopedia. I remember that growing up as a kid. But
I'm old, man. I'm
showing a little bit of our age. But Wolf of Wall Street was awesome. He was Cookie. It was a great move, or a great movie. But all right, so this partnership, it isn't just about tech. This is about branding in a lot of ways, and it's a model for how independent cannabis retail can thrive in regulated markets, which I think is great. But honestly, good having you on as always, and this is going to be obviously a great opportunity for you as you guys look to scale more and more. What is the end goal here? How much do you think? Are there numbers that you're thinking of when it comes to the overall size and scale based off of this announcement?
Go for it, Jonathan. How big are you guys going to get? I'm curious how big you guys are going to get.
Our goal is market right now is $31.9 billion according to BDSA. Our goal is to get to $3.1 billion worth of top line revenue through these dispensary channels. Okay. So in my mind, it depends on how you want to break that down, but it's anywhere from 250 shops to 400 shops, right? Wow. So that would be the ultimate goal. And to do it with FlowHub the whole way through, skipping down the road hand in hand.
So excited for this.
Are there plans to acquire portfolios of dispensaries moving forward, or is it more so a one-on-one approach and just piecing it together?
The bigger ones are conversations in which we're having with names you guys would definitely know. And so we've been working back and forth on that. It's hard for someone to let go of what they think is a brand, right?
Oh, I bet.
And to flip over. So there's potentially a powered by model running through that with FlowHub. And look, a lot of those guys are using FlowHub, right? So But there's definitely conversations about that, because if we get to a point where this thing can get to an IPO on a real public market, not a Canadian one, not an OTC one, like the Cheech and Chong brand with those resources behind it is going to have an amazing value. And it's really the coup de grace for Tommy and Cheech, right? Like to say, we told you guys this 50 plus years ago. It took a while, but here we are, right? So
time takes, there's any good idea takes time, but give those guys a lot of credit in what they built their brand on. And more importantly, obviously have a lot of respect for what you guys are doing as far as scaling up, because in order for this industry really to grow, we need this regulated market, obviously, to excel and hopefully get all the things in the right place once we start to see some reform. But judging by Anthony's take off the top, he's like, after Pam Bondi's performance here today, he thinks this might be a little bit.
I always assume I'm wrong. So let's see
what happens.
I know, Anthony, there's some people with some definite political capital up on the Hill making a huge play. And it's interesting how they're looking at it, recreational versus medicinal versus non-states, and how they're positioning a potential bill and a run at it up there. So I get it, though, man. It is frustrating to watch the wheels of government turn.
It's frustrating, but there's a lot of people now that keep saying, well, if there's a blue wave in November and the House and Senate flips, bills could start flying pretty quickly. So hopefully one way we'll get it done.
I'm going to stay optimistic, fellas.
I'm still optimistic. I'm just reading the tea leaves, and the most recent tea leaf I have is, like I said, that 6-hour circus. That was that Judiciary Committee hearing, which I was hoping someone was going to bring up cannabis, because they brought up drugs a lot with fentanyl and just the confiscation of resources. And now she's working against TCOs. Would have been nice to have an S3 question planted, but he just didn't give me any confidence to the fact that it's on the docket or she's even working on it.
How do we get you guys in the press pool? That's what I want. Don't they accepting independent journalists now? I feel like we need to get you guys both in the press pool.
I feel like Anthony has some good questions to be asked.
Exactly.
I feel like that would work out.
I could, I get in there, I will definitely have some questions to ask. Trust me.
Anthony, I know the FBI did an exportation for a massive amount of cannabis brands recently. So it's weird to hear that there's not a communication between Cash and Bondi going on about any of that stuff. Surprise.
The thing is, the thing that's frustrating is the writing's on the wall. We need this to happen. It's in the best interest of law enforcement. It's in the best interest of the administration. It makes sense. And then we keep just getting bogged down in this political malaise. But granted, it was the 18th of December. It'll be 90 days here in a week. 90 days in Washington is nothing to get something done. Trump said a couple weeks and it took 4 months. I'm still positive that we get something done. It's just a function of when. And I don't know if Pam autonomously working gets it done. I think it's going to take Donald to be like, hey, I asked you to do this. Get it done. I have some guys that want it done as well.
Anthony, do you think anything from her time in Florida might be affecting this? I know that's just been a battle.
No, she didn't. She was against cannabis at first, under the purview of Rick Scott. And then she came around, and the largest medical market, arguably the largest medical market in the United States and one of the largest medical markets in the world, grew under Ron DeSantis. And he absolutely hates cannabis if you see him in the public, which is kind of ironic. But no, I think she didn't do us any favors, but she's been a pawn. She was always marching at the governor's discretion. So I don't think she wants to do it, or I think she's probably just impartial to the issue. She's going to do, hopefully, what Donald Trump asked her to do and get it done. But nothing today instilled confidence.
Anthony, it sounds like you and I need to take a trip up to Mar-a-Lago.
There's a golf tournament March 2nd at Mar-a-Lago that I'm probably going to play.
Well, the key is to knock on Howard Kessler's door next door and bring him with you, because he's the factor in all this right now.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's got armed security at his $300 million bunker in West Palm Beach.
I'm sure he has. But to your point, Kyle, remaining optimistic, yes, I do think something is going to get done. But the challenge with this administration is there is stuff going on every single day. And it's just what supersedes, as far as what particular topic or conversation, what supersedes cannabis, and the list is endless on a day-to-day basis, and that changes all the time. So the unfortunate part is that we're not at the front of the line, but to your point, Kyle, let's stay optimistic, because I still think something's going to get done. But Pam Bondi, I don't think it has too much related to cannabis today, but man, she did not look good and sound good. But we live.
Chad, do you think we could be a bargaining chip in all of this political melee. What's your opinion on that? Just out of curiosity.
I think if you got $200 or $300 million, you could be, absolutely. But until then, it's I think that's the challenge. You need big dollars to sway this administration and this president. And I don't know what the dollar figure was as far as what Howard Kessler was doing, but I'm sure there was something influential involved in that. It's going to just take big dollars. And more importantly, as this administration always is, what's in it for them. So I don't know what that implies, but I think there's some moving pieces that we could eventually learn later on down the road that who knows. Just when you think something's completely out of the box thinking and not going to happen, it could very well happen. And what that could mean, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to apply anything, but nothing's off the table right now. But I don't know if that answers your question. But anyways, Anthony, you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, today is actually the 5-year anniversary of MSOS hitting an all-time high of $52.
Distant memory.
So we rub a little salt in that wound. It's the 5-year anniversary.
$52. Could you imagine? Oh,
MSOS nice. Hirsch brought it up today. Actually, I had no idea. Hirsch brought it up on the 12 o'clock live stream.
Oh, there's some good, nice option calls if that hit $52. I don't know.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, and I'm sure Jonathan agrees, the industry has never really been in a better place than we are now. The wind's at our back. We're not fighting an uphill battle anymore. We're looking down, ready for stuff just to happen.
I got everybody coming on here. Pam Bondi isn't going to sign until Shad makes a prediction date. And, I hinted last.
I have heard anecdotally that that RFK Jr. does want to get this done. I've heard that he's blessed it. He has HHS behind it. He wants this to happen. So I'm assuming it's, like I said, my confidence isn't wavered in it getting done. My confidence in her has deteriorated a little bit.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what? I always look at how we do with hiring at FlowHub, like employment index. What kind of talent are we recruiting outside of other giant tech companies and startups and stuff? And I'll tell you what, that Schedule 3 EO, that executive order really helped, I think, inspire a lot of people. I've seen just an explosion of inbound. And, oh yeah, it's wild. And I'll tell you what too, the talent level is just getting better and better. Now we've got a phenomenal team. We've attracted phenomenal talent over the last decade. And we've held on to a lot of that talent. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of great people that are reaching out and we're reaching out too, and they're really excited about the industry. And I've been measuring on recruiting and how that's been going over the years. And it used to be really hard. It got a little bit easier as time has gone on, but I'll tell you, it's just gotten a lot easier since December. So I don't know what that tells you, but there's definitely changed people's point of view on cannabis that are not coming from the space already. So
interesting. Blue Crab Fridays with Kyle and the FlowHub crew. What do you think?
In Maryland. Those Maryland blue crabs were incredible. We
got to do Stone. It has to be Stone Crab Fridays now that you're in Miami.
That's right.
Best crab around.
Got a bunch of Joes.
Crab around.
We got to meet up, Anthony. You and I need to go out there.
Yep.
All right. You guys tell me about it, and I'll keep working on my visa, and hopefully I can get down there. But in the meantime, I'll huddle back into my igloo after I'm done this podcast, stay warm, and hopefully I'm alive come the springtime. But good seeing you guys. And Kyle, always good seeing you. Jonathan, great to meet you as well. And yes, let's keep in touch. Congrats again. Always like to see infrastructure, naming rights as far as partnership networks that you're going to be building out and trends that we start to see on. Yes, this is the cannabis space today, but we always want to learn a little bit more on where it's going to be looking tomorrow. And among other things, when it comes to reform as well. But all in all, once that starts to get implemented, you can start to see some of the trends that are going to happen. And this announcement kind of demonstrates and defines that. So appreciate you guys again logging on here today. And more importantly, let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks,
all right.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Kyle.
Bye,
all right. Good seeing you, my man. We'll talk to you next week. Good guys, that's for sure. So that's a wrap. Adam Stetner coming back on tomorrow.
$52 on MSOS.
$52. Wow. Will it hit 52 ever again?
I don't know.
It's pretty high.
You got to calculate in dilution of the stock since then. It was 5 years ago, so a lot of companies have added a lot of shares. I don't know if 52 is ever possible again. $30 sounds reasonable. 52, you would need Florida adult use, North Carolina, South Carolina, New York becomes a $5 billion market. Everything would have to be clicking. And the MSOs probably are operating in Europe as well. You wouldn't need a 50X. You would need to 10X. Math is pretty 12X. The math is pretty simple on that.
You wonder how the market performs once you start to see reform take place. Let's say in a
not going to $52.
Well, I'm just saying uplisting happens. You start to really pivot towards individual names, correct?
No, but those individual names will make the ETF go up. It's all a function of industry, economics, and the multiples that these companies get once they get re-rated. Like I said, it's a base case. It's a 12.5x from where it is right now, $4 a share. It'd be a big, lofty climb.
Big. That's Advisor Shares ETF MSOS. They also have the ETF YOLO, YOLO, which is the best performing cannabis ETF in 2025. Part of its allocation is 45.14% of the ETF MSOS. That is their biggest holding, followed by Village Farms. I hear is actually speaking to Pablo Zuanich here today, along with a couple other people. So good job by Pablo to get them on. And as well, High Tide, another big company in the YOLO ETF, big performers that all trade on senior exchanges. So again, if you want to learn more, log on to Advisor Shares and check out their YOLO ETF. Will it hit
Brian,
5?
I will bet you MSOS hits 520 before hemp gets banned.
It's on. I'll second that note.
So we have till November.
I think MSOS will hit 720.
Let's not get carried away here.
I'm not getting carried away. I'll call that. All right. I think that's it for now. Adam Stetner is going to come back on again tomorrow. We're going to talk more about underwriting and carry off in some of the conversations we've had with them over the past 2 weeks, as well as Kevin McKern. How do I pronounce his last name again?
Kevin McKernan. You got it right.
Kevin McKernan. Sorry. I apologize. We're going to talk about this story that was published earlier this week about America having this quote unquote marijuana problem, but he's got some really good scientific data that backs that up. And I know this is quite obvious on how people would probably answer some of these questions if they got a chance to sit down with a politician. But Kevin is a pro at this, and he'll provide some really good data on some of the stuff that's being claimed in this story, which is far from the truth. So it's always good to have an idea as to why you don't agree with it, but he's going to back it up with some stats, and we'll dive into that with Kevin tomorrow. So that'll wrap up our week here at the Trade to Black podcast presented by FlowHub. In the meantime, stay locked in, stay focused, and own your edge. Flow, free pouch nicotine. Did you try any today or no? No? You're more of a golf course kind of guy? Yep. Got to get out in the course. All right, my friend. Good seeing you. Everybody, enjoy your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names in the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.